Good morning and welcome to Bermuda Youth Connect. My name is Ajay Pete and I'm joined by Teray Tull. Today we have the privilege of speaking with independent candidate Justin Mathias and One Bermuda Alliance candidate Senator Douglas Couto. Thank you both for taking the time to join us.
During this conversation, we're going to be talking about key issues affecting our community with a very specific focus on the rising cost of living and the current state of Constituency 25. Our goal is to provide voters with insight into your perspectives, priorities, and plans for the future. With that, let's first turn to Senator Douglas Couto, who's going to introduce himself for 2 minutes.
Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for setting this up, and thank you for having us on your interview show here. I really welcome the opportunity to reach out to some other people who we might not reach other ways. I know it's Sunday morning, but some people like to move early. So I'm Douglas Couto. I've been working in Constituency 25, Warwick Northeast, since around 2021. I've served 2 years as a senator under the One Bermuda Alliance, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to continue to serve the people of Bermuda and, importantly, the people of Warwick Northeast. My personal background I have a professional background is in sort of computer science, engineering, finance. I currently work in the international business, almost 20 years, not quite. I have 2 young boys. I have an older daughter. I have a wonderful wife, and I'm very lucky that they support me. I've really enjoyed canvassing in the constituency over the past 3 years. At this point, I'm knocking on doors for the 3rd and 4th time, and I look forward to addressing the issues that they have in that constituency. I'm also incredibly proud to be part of the One Bermuda Alliance team. Earlier I was listening to a radio show and somebody said, what's different about the OBA now than before? And I can tell you a ton. First of all, we have lots of new people. We have a great energy, and we've spent a lot of time coming together and working on ideas that are focused on helping the people of Bermuda today. So I would say for the people in C25, they've seen how hard I work. They see the ideas that we have, and they see our team. And I'll talk more about that later, but I'm looking forward to getting down to business for them.
Thank you, Mr. Couto. Now we hear from independent candidate Justin Mathias.
Well, and thank you guys for having this platform for all of us to come and speak and inform the voters. I know, from back when I was in the OBA in 2018, and I was the OBA candidate for Constituency 25. There was a lot of inspiration and a lot of things that I got from Youth Parliament when you guys were in there and you guys were supporting the youth, and I was supporting the youth through the Future Bermuda Alliance. So it's just wonderful that you guys have this organization now, and you're able to, inform the voters, give them knowledge, give them the facts, so that on election day they can make the right informed choice. For me, it's obviously a little bit more complex for me. I used to be the chairman of the One Bermuda Alliance. I used to be a former senator for the One Bermuda Alliance. So running as an independent this time, coming back 7 years later, and coming to represent the people of Constituency 25, those people that put their confidence in me in 2018, I'm returning back to their doorstep to say that I have never left you. I am back. I am not going to jump ship to any other party or any other constituency. And I'm here to represent you. I'm here to be your voice. I'm not here to represent a party. I'm not here to represent somebody else's belief. I am here to represent you. So it's refreshing. I think people have seen my brochures, they've seen their website. If you want to get more information, constituency25.com. And you will see all of the local issues and the national issues that I'm passionate about. There's going to be a platform drop within the next couple of days that's going to give you 20 to 30 pages of great ideas that my team and I have come up with, and also the constituents of 25 have come up with. So I'm really excited about this. This is a huge last-minute decision. Like Doug, I work in the international business as well. I'm a chartered professional accountant by trade, and I use my designation as an investment and treasury professional within the insurance industry. I help manage a portfolio of about $3.5 billion. And I know the connections that we need to make in order to grow the economy and find solutions that will work to resolve a lot of the issues that we're going to discuss today.
All right, thank you so much for your opening remarks. So now we have many extensive questions that we would like to pose to both of you. First, I would like to start with Mr. Couto. The OBA has five main pillars released in their platform. One, world-class education. Two, safe, healthy, sustainable community. Three, affordable standard of living. Four, repower our economy. Five, strengthening governance. Which one is currently resonating most with constituents in C25?
That's a great question. I would say, to be honest, all five of them resonate very hard because the reason we came up with those pillars was based on our canvassing and listening to people across the island. But if I had to pick one, it's going to be the economy. What I know through the canvassing, and not just me, but also my colleagues, is people at every level of Bermuda society are feeling the impacts of the economy and the cost of living, whether it be people who are saying, I can't afford to buy cooking gas, I can't afford to pay the Belco bill, to people who say like maybe more middle class or focused on how do I pay my mortgage and pay the school fees for my children, if they're in private school. And to be honest, a lot of people are doing everything they can to keep their kids in private school because they don't have faith in the public school system. And we can talk about that a little bit. To older Bermudians who are saying, I'm trying to retire, my pension is not working like I thought it would work. The cost of living is high. The medical costs are too high. Do I move to the UK? So that's why I say the cost of living, it's really the one consistent thing. Obviously, education is huge for anybody who has children. Healthcare is huge for a lot of people too. So it's really hard to say one stands head and shoulders. But if I had to pick one, it would be, the cost of living and the economy and how people are just getting through their lives every day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Justin, I want to turn to you now. You're the first candidate that I have ever seen pledge to, quote, pledge half of your MP salary to finance projects around your constituency and in C25. Tell us why this specific pledge is important to you and why you brought it up now.
I think it's an easy solution, right? For me, it's, being a public servant is key and it's foremost, right? Even if I don't get elected in this election, I'm still a public servant. I still have to help people. So if I do become an MP, and if I don't become an MP, in my mind, I make the same amount of money, right, at my private sector job. So to me, I'm not in this for the money, and I'll pledge the whole thing if I need to. There are community issues that were presented to me in 2018 that are still pervasive within my community in 2025. And to me, that is deplorable. I think both parties, both the PLP and the OBA, have to look at themselves and understand why people within this country have the same issues, and not any of the parties have come up with a solution, because they're all worried about themselves. They're not focused on the Bermudian people themselves, and they're not focused on solving the solutions. For me, for the cost of living is probably number one on the doorstep, but then it's a continuation into everything else. It goes into education. It goes into the economy. It goes into the opportunities that are presented to the Bermudian public. And we have to provide solutions. Yes, we can all identify the problems. Everybody can do that. That doesn't make you special. What makes you special and what makes you a public servant is actually finding the solutions, getting your hands dirty, and doing the action.
Can you tell us more about what those issues that are recurring since 2018 in C25 are? And then, Mr. Couto, I'll give you a chance to respond once we get what those recurring issues are from Justin.
Yeah, I think it's just, there's obviously government is stretched at the moment, right? And people are all feeling that. So in terms of garbage collection, in terms of senior support within the community, in terms of cost of living, people are having a hard time. So what I want to do and what I want to establish is a community fund that will support the lower end families within the constituency by giving them grocery vouchers, by helping them with their Belco bill, For seniors that do not want to go into rest homes, let's get support workers for them. Also, there is a traffic congestion issue within our constituency. So my solution is to have a minibus route that goes from Cobbs Hill to Ord Road to Longford Hill and back on Harbor Road to support the Pink Route. And if we can support the Pink Route, we can eliminate traffic congestion, we can get more passengers on the Pink Route, and the Pink Route can expand its services because there will be a demand and there will be a supply there.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mathias. Mr. Couto, you can respond.
Sure. I will just say one thing. It's very easy for somebody to say, oh, the parties don't do this, the parties don't that, the parties don't have solutions. I would urge anyone who hears that to go check the facts out and make their own decision. We've had our platform out since September. We're the only group that has, whether they be the government or the independents or the FDM. And like I said, we spent a long time putting that together with our team of people that is really representative of Bermuda. You know, we have a team of candidates that are blue collar, white collar, black, white, pink collar, IB, entrepreneurs, social workers, laborers, union people. And we worked very hard as a group to find the right balance. You know, I'm a sort of finance guy, white collar guy. And so let's just say I was to roll up to the room and say, hey, we've got to pay that debt down, guys. So that means the government's going to spend less. And they'll say, hey, hold up, Doug. We've got to make sure we look out for our people. And so it's been a great learning experience. So in terms of solutions, my challenge to people is, hey, check out our platform, call me up or call up any of your candidates and decide for yourself. Now, let's talk about the things going on in the constituency. The thing I would say is you're already paying your taxes. Everyone's paying taxes, whether it be through customs duty on items that they buy or payroll tax. And so I think the question you should ask yourself, why is this government not providing the services that I deserve for the taxes I'm already paying? Now, it's very nice to say, hey, I'd like to help you out. And, you know, I'm not going to get into the details. There are people who I've helped out in the constituency, but I don't necessarily get those details out there because that's between me and them. But the first question is, if you're already paying the taxes, the government should be doing the work and providing those services. In terms of what I would do in the constituency, you know, over the years, I've had multiple events for seniors. We've had the seniors tea. We've been doing trash pickups. We've been, I work with various stakeholders, you know, in the various neighborhoods to help facilitate the tree trimming. Look, I don't go out and do it myself. I have a day job, but what I'll do is I'll call up some of the property owners, and you know, some of these discussions can get a little tense, you know, over between property owners to say, hey, you know, Mr. Smith, I'm calling, you know, Miss Jones has a concern. Hey, what can we do? You know, things like, so I help to facilitate certain conversations and get things done, whether they be, you know, individual property owners or institutions, and the people in those neighborhoods know what I've been able to do for them. The other thing that, you know, as an MP, you're able to do is you can try to exert a little influence with works in engineering. You know, we all know in a perfect world, anybody could call them up and say, please come fix this, fix that. The reality is, if your representative steps up and makes a little noise for you, that can help get things done. And as a senator, I was able to do that. And as a candidate, I was able to do that on behalf of people. So I guess I would sum that up as by saying, over the past several years, I have done quite a lot of specific work in the constituency. You know, that tells people, hey, if I vote for this guy, this is what I'm going to get. So I think the track record's been clear. And in general, the OBA philosophy is, you know, we do want to support people who need the support. Let's always remember that. But let's also make sure we get our country to a place where people don't need that support, where they have the opportunity to have the job to get to pay for the things that they need, right? But if they need that help, we'll be there, whether it's like seniors, mothers, people who are in hard times, or, you know, they need special healthcare and things like that. So it's that balance between things that we work on.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. I want to switch gears a little bit to cost of living. The Trump administration has proceeded to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And Mr. Couto, your colleague, Dwayne Robinson, posted this tweet recently, which says, I sounded the alarm on the potential for the CIT to be affected by a then potential Donald Trump presidency back in November. There are too many PLP initiatives slated to be funded by the CIT to not be certain or have an alternative. What does this mean for Bermuda and our cost of living? What are you preparing for, or what should we be preparing for?
Well, unfortunately, I think we need to prepare for an increased cost of living. And again, I don't want to be, running around saying the sky is falling. But the reality is Trump has just announced he's going to impose tariffs in the United States on Canada and Mexico. Now, a tariff is basically the same thing as what we call a customs duty. That means many, many goods in the United States, the price of those is going to go up. Now, we get mostly all of our goods from the United States. So that means our prices are going to go up, and there's really nothing we can do about it. I can't explain why President Trump is doing that. I can just tell you that is going to be, if he goes through with it, it's not going to be good for the people of the United States, and it's not going to be good for the people of Bermuda. The second thing to think about is the corporate income tax. The government has sort of predicted a very large chunk of income from that to make its budgeting work. The problem with that is one, and we said this over a year ago, is it was always going to be a little uncertain or a lot uncertain as to how much that money would be and when it would come. And it's certainly our view that it's too early to include it in the budget. Okay. We need to get a little more experience with it and see how it plays out with companies. Do they stay? Do they go? How do they respond in their own tax optimization? Their tax lawyers figuring out how to reduce tax. So that's the point one. Point two is it's even made worse through Trump because he's talked about reducing the corporate tax in the United States. So if he reduces the corporate tax further in the United States, you can see why companies will say, let me see, I'm going to pay 15% in Bermuda or 15% in America. And it's hard to hire people in Bermuda, and it costs me more to have my employees here, and various other factors that we need to work on to make Bermuda a jurisdiction that these companies want to be in. So you can see that directionally, it's not going to be helpful for us. There will no doubt be some companies that might just say, the reason we're in Bermuda doesn't make sense anymore. So to be honest, with Trump, it's sort of like, let's see what the next tweet says, if you know what I mean. We're watching very carefully. We are always consulting with people that we know in the international business, whether it be individual companies or people or the trade associations, and we try to collect information. And ultimately, our conclusions, we have to be very measured and very careful in our approach to get the best long-term results for Bermuda.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr.
So just
Mathias,
shifting gears.
one second,
Sorry.
Audrey. Mr. Mathias, did you want to add anything on the subject?
My internet cut out, so I didn't actually hear the initial question.
About Trump's volatile policy and tariffs and Bermuda's cost of living.
Oh, well, yeah, I think there's definitely going to be implications, right? I think, like Doug said, there's going to be increased costs just because of the factor that we're an island and we have to import everything, and that pass-on cost is going to drive inflation. I would actually disagree with Doug's sentiment on if the global minimum income tax does come into play. I don't think it is. I think Trump's probably going to threaten the OECD and probably threaten to pull out of the OECD, and I think that would be the end of the global minimum income tax. But actually, the global minimum income tax would have provided an opportunity for Bermuda. It would have leveled the playing field with cities like New York City. And given our jurisdiction, given our history, given the talent that we have in Bermuda, it would have actually might have driven companies to move from New York to Bermuda. So there actually would have been opportunities, and I've talked with a lot of private credit managers that I deal with on my balance sheet at my job, and they would probably consider an office here in Bermuda because they're here 5-10 times a year, right? So you have to really reason in the sense of what is the business activity of Bermuda. There are billions, almost $1 trillion in Bermuda in terms of capital that needs to go somewhere. And the support that we provide to the rest of the global market would drive people to come to Bermuda if given the opportunity and given the people that would network and broker that opportunity. So that's what I bring to the table, right? A lot of the parties, and especially the OBA, they see everything as so negative, right? I see the opportunities in a situation like this, where we go and we knock on those doors in New York City and get those global headquarters to move to Bermuda.
Thank you for that. Get it, Aj.
All right. Sorry about that. So just shifting gears just a little bit, Justin Mathias. So in 2016-17, you were an instrumental member of the OBA's youth wing, which has since been disbanded. Some argue that political youth wings can serve as genuine platforms for young people to advocate, petition, and develop leadership, while others see them as mechanisms for parties to control narratives and groom future loyalists. Based on your experience, do you believe political parties genuinely empower young voices, or do they primarily use youth wings as tools to maintain influence?
Well, I think the start of that, Ajay, right? Like, I know we have a really big political science background, but the start of this is, what is a political party supposed to be, right? It is supposed to foster a political ideology, and it's supposed to bring like-minded people together. And in that, you're supposed to have a youth wing that's supposed to nurture the future of those individuals that find themselves within that political ideology. It is a support group. It is a way to say, you know, I want to become a public servant. These are the ideals that I have in the political sphere that I find myself in. How do I make it through there? Is frontline politics where I want to be? Do I want to be in the background? Do I want to be a regional chair? All of these things give exposure to youth to really truly understand the gravity of being a public servant. What happens is that you have political organizations that forget that fact, right? That forget that they have to have a political ideology. No party in Bermuda, the PLP or the OBA, have a political ideology. Doug will tell you all of these adjectives of the people within the OBA. Yes, it's a diverse group of people. Yes, it's a broad church, but that is not what a political party is. You cannot get consensus if you have all of these different views. Hence why the OBA is so slow to react, because they can't find consensus. They can't find agreement. And to me, what needs to happen and what has happened is there is no youth wing because people within the party couldn't control it. People saw us as youth as a threat instead of the opposite way around. And if you had a political ideology, you would have never seen a threat. You would have seen us as opportunity. But because of that, and because of that breaking down of the fundamental understanding of what a political party is supposed to be, and the people that are in politics right now, in frontline politics, who don't understand this, who don't understand the system, that don't appreciate the ethical responsibility that public servants are supposed to have, that's where you've seen the breakdown. Because we are just seen as a threat. We're not seen as something that needs to be fostered and cared for. And to me, the unconscionable thing is that if you don't see that within your own party and you can't take care of your own, how could you ever go onto someone's doorstep and say that I'm going to advocate for you when you demonize your own people?
I'd like to give an opportunity for Doug to respond.
Repeat my, oh, sorry, is my mic on here?
Yes.
So again, anybody can say anything, okay? That's reality. You could say the sky is pink, the ocean is green, and so forth. But that doesn't make it true. I'm going to give you a couple of points. So first of all, if you look at our platform, right at the beginning, it says, you know, we have a set of values: inclusivity and diversity, integrity, and social fairness through responsible spending. Now, I can tell you, we spend a lot of time with that diverse group of people we have agreeing on the balance of those values and why they're important for us. And whenever we get a tough topic or tough conversation comes up in our room, our group of candidates, you know, party people and so forth, when the rubber meets the road, we look back to those values and we say, is what we're doing consistent with those values? Is what we're doing addressing what's important for Bermuda? Is what we're doing producing better outcomes for Bermuda? So I'm just going to leave that there. And we do live it every day. let me give you an example of how we involve young people in the party. So first of all, we don't currently have a dedicated youth wing, and our current working approach is, if you want to come and join the party, we welcome you, and you get to sit at, quote unquote, the grown-up table. Okay, we're not going to shunt you off. And we have some very young people in the party, and here's a specific example, right? I run a little bit of a economic finance working group, or if you want to call it a shadow committee or whatever. And it's a group of people, of candidates and party members, and we get together and we collaborate on things like the reply to the budget, the finance and economy and cost of living parts of the platform, and things like that. Anybody who wants to join is welcome, put their hand up. So we had a very young member, and they came to the meeting, and they were sitting on the edge of the room, and we're sitting around the table. I said, hey, pull your chair up. I need you to be sitting at the table with us, not just sitting back there taking notes. It's important because that person, as a young person in Bermuda, is bringing a very different experience and a very different reality than like I, as almost 50, have, or people in their 40s or whatever. They're someone who's wrapping up education, say, or just started their jobs, and their problems look different. And it's important for like me, when I help coordinate that group, that committee, to come up with our strategy around, reply to the budget and so forth. I need that voice in there. And that sort of same approach applies to all the working groups that we've had, for example, for our platform. So that's, one of, I guess, a rebuttal to Mr. Mathias's, frankly, comments not based in fact about the One Bermuda Alliance, and two, a very specific example of how we involve anyone who comes into the party who wants to get involved. So I'll leave it at that.
I think those sentiments very well shift into this next question very well, which I would like to pose to Justin Mathias. How do you respond to the notion that independent candidates lack the accountability and party support necessary to be effective? And what would you say to voters who may share that concern?
Yeah, I don't see that a concern. I think you have to look at the situation we present ourselves in now, right? In the reality of the past elections, has anyone got any effectiveness? The answer is no, right? So in terms of effectiveness, you have to have actual representation. Doug has stood here and said everything about the OBA. He hasn't spoke to what he wants to do. He hasn't spoke to what the constituents want. And that's what I'm presenting. I'm presenting true representation. And the only way that that will become effective is that I do my job, I solve the local issues that are in front of us, I shine a light on those local issues that we've provided solutions for within the House of Assembly, and say, listen, Constituency 25 just did X, Y, and Z. Let's make this happen in the rest of the country. On top of that, I will take all of their issues and highlight their needs within the House of Parliament on central national issues, and I'll be able to speak to that. No party line is going to stop me from speaking for my people. And that's the true difference. That's where you get effectiveness. If there's a situation where the OBA believes in something and the people of Constituency 25 believe in something else, Doug would have to toe his party line. He could not represent the people of Constituency 25 if the OBA decides that that is what the party line is going to be. So that in of itself is ineffective. So I am not coming here for Justin Mathias' opinions and belief. I am here to represent the people of Constituency 25.
So, just to give Mr. Couto an opportunity to speak to that, as chairman of the National Museum, you've played a key role in preserving Bermuda's heritage and ensuring that all Bermudans can see their story reflected in our history. How do you see that commitment translating into your vision for Constituency 25, and what steps would you like to take to preserve and celebrate the cultural and historical significance of that area?
That's a great question. That's a very good question. Well, first of all, let me just talk about the museum. Anyone who hasn't been up there recently, you need to get up there. It's a great team of the board of trustees, the employees, the director, and the staff. So let me just plug the museum, get up the dockyard, take your kids to playground, walk around, have lunch up there, and experience the West End. So, please do that. nmb.bm. As the former chair, I have to advertise it, so please bear with me on that. Okay, so what I'd like to say is, I'll put the question another way. People say, what do you like about the constituency? What I like is all the different neighborhoods, their histories and their cultures and their different backgrounds, and being to go in there and talk to the people and learn about them, whether it be Spring Hill, Harbor Road, Tribe Road 2, and so forth, right? And the reality is, what are the concerns of people right now is the cost of living. They are actually quite national concerns, or they're like the roads, and we have plans for all of those things in our platform. So, I think that if we can address the cost of living, when we address the cost of living, when we address healthcare, when we address education, that is going to go a huge way to what's going on for the people of Constituency 25. Now, I know there are areas in Warwick, especially Constituency 25, for example, that have struggled with some violence. That's a unfortunately, very local issue there. But as we know, it's not really a local issue. We're so small. A shooting, a chase on a bike, shots fired, those impact all of us. And I've been talking to some people in the constituency, and I know that, for example, right now, the tensions are very high. This is what I've been told. So one thing I'd very much like to do is say, hey, what can we do to provide some outlets for our young people? What kind of programs we can provide to give them some positive, constructive things that they can do? Now, that's very local around some specific neighborhoods, but also not, because this violence spreads. And then there's specific things about, pave this road here, cut that hedge there. Why don't they trim the trees on the railway trail for the bus stop? And those are also important and have to be addressed. So that was a bit of a mishmash of things, but that is what's going on in the constituency, is quite a different mishmash of things.
Yeah, and to keep the ball moving on things going on in the constituency, Justin, I want to bring you back in on this. Your platform you said you're going to release something soon, but so far in all of your op-eds, you've talked about your community fund, a minibus route, grocery vouchers, senior assistance, and infrastructure improvements. Tell us more about why these initiatives are your top priorities and why they're so needed in C25.
I think it's turned back to what I said earlier, right? It's finding solutions to these simple problems. I see my salary, if I do become the member of parliament, because it is the taxpayer money, it's just a redistribution of taxpayer money. There are certain things that, when you look at small government, when you look at big government, there's certain limitations on that, right? And I know that exists. My whole entire thesis is that there are short-term solutions that we can provide until the bigger government can come in and fill those gaps. And what I'm willing to do in the short term is to provide relief to my people, to provide the solutions to, I think, very simple issues within our constituency. And I think there's nothing wrong in that, right? I think you have some people that will sit there and say, well, I'm not going to do it because it's government show up to do it. No, that's not how we should be. If we want to become the government, then we have to show that within our actions, that we're willing to do and put in that work. And that's the thing that will get us to the goal of being a community again, of helping one another, and stop pointing the finger at other people saying, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. Let's be about it. Let's get to work.
Okay, excellent. Doug, going to bring you back in on this. You've been the Shadow Minister of Finance since September 2023, which means you've had a front row seat in the direction of the country for financial, economic decisions. From your perspective, what is your biggest concern about the current state of Bermuda's economy under this current administration, and what do you believe needs to change to put the country on a firmer financial path?
Sure. Well, thank you for highlighting that. A couple of major concerns. Let's talk about the economy. Now, the current government will say the economy is doing great. And that's true if you think about IB. IB is at the top of a really good business cycle. But if you sort of slice out IB, if you slice out, financial the financial industry in Bermuda and you look only what I like to call the local economy, that economy has basically been flat since before COVID. We also know that there's fewer jobs in Bermuda than since before COVID. And where there are areas that have been increases have mostly been driven by IB and non-Bermudians. What does that tell you? It tells you what people already know when they're walking down the street and they're seeing shops closed and buildings boarded up, or they're seeing neighborhoods where people haven't been able to paint their roofs or fix their windows because they're not making as much money, or the money they're making isn't going as far. So for me and my colleagues, that's our number one concern right now. And that's why an important part of our platform is getting the local economy going again. The second part is about how is the government managing its money? And I know my time is running out because you put me back on the fourth screen, but I worry a lot about the money, not for money's sake, but the money is a tool that we need to provide the services and infrastructure and support for people in Bermuda. And if it's not being well managed and being handled in a way that it can be sustainable, we won't have the tools that we need to deliver what we need for the people of Bermuda. Right now, the Premier has been going on about a so-called balanced budget. And it's basically not true. Not just basically, it is not true. In the past 2 years, the government has spent over $100 million of borrowed money. They've increased the net debt by $100 million. Actually, I think it's 105 something. So when you have a government that can't even be honest about what it's doing, what does that tell you about how it's managing your finances? And I say your finances because the money that the government has comes from the people of Bermuda and the businesses of Bermuda to provide services for you. So those are the two areas that I'm really, really concerned about. And we're dedicated to basically restabilizing the country's finances and making sure they're well managed to continue so that the government can continue to provide the services and infrastructure and support, not just today, but also tomorrow for the people of Bermuda.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Justin, do you have anything to add?
I think just in the simplest terms, right? I think we can all have action now. Doug would talk about the platform being out since September. PLP doesn't have a platform out. Those are just words, right? They haven't changed anything. They haven't changed the lives of anybody within the party. In terms of what we can actually do, in terms of what we could do in the short term and what we're willing to do, for me, I'm willing to give up my MP salary to support my constituents. It is the taxpayer monies that they fund for me to be the representative. So to me, it's their money, right? So you have a choice. You can get me, I will put my money right back into our community and into our country, or you can get another candidate that's just going to put their money back into the political system and put it into the party so that they can do these fancy platforms and all these words and do absolutely nothing, which what they've been doing for the last 20 years.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes, and before we go, we would like to give you both 1 minute to give closing remarks. First, Justin Mathias, and then Douglas Couto.
Yeah, I think, I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks going and knocking on every single door that I can to deliver my message to the people of Constituency 25. But I think this is a great moment for the country to really look and see, is this system actually serving you well? To me, people come to me and say, oh, a vote for an independent might be a wasted vote. Hasn't your vote been wasted for the last 20 years? Take a chance, take a leap of faith, and let's try something different.
Mr. Couto?
I guess how to put this. The people in Constituency 25, they know what I'm about. They know what I've been doing for them, both in the constituency. They know what I've been doing for them in the Senate, and they know what they're going to get if they vote for me. And if they vote for the OBA, they're going to get me. They're going to get a great team with great leadership and a great platform that's really focused on solving their problems. So I look forward to seeing them on the 18th. And remember to vote for me, because you know what you're getting. You're getting a hard worker who's focused on results. And the last thing I want to say is thank you to both of you guys for setting this up, and thank you for Mr. Mathias, for taking the time to come on, and I look forward to the other interviews that you'll be doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that wraps up our discussion. But before we go, we want to thank both of you, Justin Mathias and Douglas Couto, for sharing your insights with us today. We appreciate your time and perspectives on these important issues, and we strongly encourage the constituents of C25 to come out and vote on February 18th. Stay tuned for our following interview at 3:00 p.m. today with Constituency 2. All right. Thank you, everyone.